My wife begged me not to show up to her company gala, said I was in the hospital. Why? Because she told everyone I was a Harvard-educated lawyer, not the guy who hauls their trash. That night, she sparkled under the chandeliers, but I held the detonator to her perfect lie, and when it blew, the fallout was beautiful. I got home around 6:45. My hands were scraped from a jam compactor, and the faint stench of engine oil still clung to my shirt. I dropped my lunchbox, 15 years of habit, on the kitchen counter, hoping for the usual smile or even a nod from my wife. Instead, Catherine sat scrolling through her phone like I didn't exist. Her keys were already in her purse. The tension in the air was impossible to miss. "You look amazing," I said, not because I wanted something, but because it was true. Her silence was louder than any thank you could have been. She finally looked up, just for a second. "You don't need to come tonight." That hit harder than it should have. "You sure? I was going to wear that gray suit you like." She flinched, not dramatically, just enough to make it clear. "Daniel, I told everyone at the firm that you're a lawyer, not a sanitation tech. I didn't mean to lie, it just kind of happened. My team, they're Ivy League. They don't get people like you." People like me. I didn't raise my voice, didn't throw anything. I just stared at the woman who once swore she'd stand by me no matter what. "So you lied about me to fit in." "I needed tonight to go smoothly," she said, already defensive. "It's just one lie." One lie. This wasn't about one lie. This was about a choice, a decision to erase me because I didn't shine bright enough under their fluorescent lights. She added, "If anyone asks where you are, I'll say you're in the hospital. That way no one asks too many questions." I didn't answer. I couldn't. I just turned around, walked into the bedroom, and closed the door. I didn't slam it. That kind of drama was for people who thought noise meant strength. I'd learned a long time ago that silence speaks louder. I sat on our back porch as the sun dipped below the neighbor's fence line. The phone buzzed inside, text from Catherine, probably instructions or guilt-ridden apologies. I didn't care. I didn't check. Instead, I remembered something she'd said months ago when she thought I wasn't listening. She was on the phone with a friend, talking about a work event. "I can't let anyone find out my husband collects garbage," she'd laughed. "It would kill my image." That night had stayed buried in the back of my mind, until now. She was wrong about one thing. I wasn't just a garbage man. I was a man who listened, who planned, who never forgot. I'd spent years putting money aside, stocks, real estate, even some early crypto. She never asked, never cared, and I never told her because I didn't need to prove anything, until now. That night I sat under the stars and made a decision. She built her life on appearances. I built mine on reality. Now her lie had lit the fuse, and she didn't know it yet, but I was holding the match. I didn't sleep that night. The quiet in the house was colder than the January wind outside. Catherine was gone, off to charm her way into a promotion with a fake story and a borrowed version of me. She texted once, just a simple, "Hope everything's okay." No apology, no remorse, just a casual nod to the lie she'd asked me to live in silence. I stared at my ceiling for hours, running through every detail of the past 15 years. I wasn't angry because she lied. I was angry because I let it happen. I gave her the space to rewrite who I was. That stopped now. By sunrise, I was logged into every financial account I owned. Stocks, mutual funds, real estate holdings, crypto wallets, the entire portfolio. I moved it all, cleanly, legally, into a trust in my name alone. Catherine didn't even know half of it existed. That wasn't an accident. I never needed her to understand how I built what I built. But now I needed her to feel it when it disappeared from her reach. Then came phase two. I called her firm's front desk, pretending to be a potential investor, interested in their upcoming gala. I used a different name, polished voice, some vague urgency. 20 minutes later, the receptionist emailed me a copy of the gala itinerary and guest list. There it was, clear as day. Mrs. Catherine Cooper and husband Daniel Cooper, senior counsel. Not just a lawyer, she made up a whole resume for me. Senior counsel, Harvard Law, former partner at a boutique firm. I almost laughed, The woman who couldn't even listen when I talked about garbage route logistics had invented a legal career for me just to impress a room full of people she barely knew. She didn't lie to protect me. She lied to elevate herself, and she didn't care what damage it did. Until now. The night of the gala, I didn't argue. I didn't confront her. I watched her fluff her hair in the mirror, spritz perfume on her wrists, check her reflection 3 times before walking out. All smiles, all sparkle. I left 20 minutes later, taking the service entrance to the hotel ballroom. I'd already mapped the venue online and scouted it 2 days earlier on my lunch break. From the mezzanine, I could see everything. She couldn't see me. Perfect. The room filled fast. Executives, junior associates, clients, the kind of crowd Catherine craved. I waited. Around 8:30, Richard Langston, her CEO, tapped a mic and raised a glass. "Let's raise a toast to Catherine Cooper," he said, "and her brilliant legal strategist of a husband, Daniel Cooper." Applause followed. She beamed. Then the screen behind the podium flickered on. "Truth matters. Who is Daniel Cooper?" "Really?" The applause faded. The first slide. Me in uniform, smiling, holding a wrench beside a compactor. The second. My work history. Every job I'd taken since I was 18. Third, a quote from Catherine's firm bio, claiming I graduated from Harvard Law. Then came the kicker. Side-by-side screenshots. My real LinkedIn, my licenses, my investments, and then hers with fabricated credentials she'd publicly posted. The crowd wasn't just shocked, they were confused. Some whispered, others stared at her. Richard leaned into the mic again. "Catherine, is this accurate?" She froze. I can explain. It was just easier to say he, but the room had already shifted. I walked downstairs calmly. Didn't rush, didn't hide. As soon as I stepped into the light, the crowd parted like I carried a disease. She turned, saw me. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. I stood in front of her and handed her a white envelope. "Since I embarrass you so much, I'll take care of the problem," I said. "Separation agreement, already signed, already filed." She didn't move, just stared at the envelope like it might explode. I looked at her boss. "You might want to double-check her credentials and her ethics policy." Then I turned and left. Behind me, the screen faded to black. The room stayed silent, and her perfect night began to collapse. By the time I got home that night, Catherine had already called 7 times. I didn't answer. I didn't even listen to the voicemails. Her lies had been playing in my head for months. I didn't need a new recording. The next morning, I woke up to a text from one of her coworkers, a junior associate I'd met once at a firm barbecue. All it said was, "You really did that." I didn't reply. At 10:12 a.m., an anonymous email landed in the inboxes of the firm's entire executive board. Attached were screenshots of her falsified HR profile, private messages to friends bragging about upgrading her husband's image, and a video clip from the gala, where her face dropped the moment the screen lit up. I didn't send it. I didn't have to. Someone at the firm must have captured it and passed it along. Her house of cards was already swaying. Now it was in freefall. By noon, she was called into a closed-door meeting with senior partners. 2 hours later, her access badge stopped working. At 5:23 p.m., security walked her out with a cardboard box in her arms. I watched from a coffee shop across the street. She didn't see me. I didn't care if she did. That evening, she came home to a stripped apartment, the joint bank account, drained legally per our prenup. The one she insisted on but never thought would be enforced. She laughed when we signed it years ago. Just a formality. She wasn't laughing now. The car she loved to show off at firm events, leased under my name, already repossessed. The furniture, mostly mine. I had receipts. The apartment lease, also under my name. Her name had been removed a week ago, quietly, efficiently. She called. I didn't answer. She texted, "This is insane. We need to talk." I was drunk. I didn't mean it. But she did mean it. Every moment of embarrassment she hid behind a lie. Every time she corrected someone when they asked what I did. None of that was accidental. It wasn't one slip. It was a lifestyle. What she didn't know, what no one knew, was that this hadn't started at the gala. This had started 6 months earlier, the moment I overheard her on the phone with her best friend. "I can't let anyone find out he works with trash. That would kill my image." That line lodged itself in my chest and stayed there. I said nothing. I made dinner that night, smiled, and kissed her goodnight. But inside, something shifted. I started making copies of documents, tracking financials, preparing, not out of spite, not because I wanted revenge, but because I realized I was married to someone who loved status more than truth, and that eventually she'd trade me in for someone more presentable. So I beat her to it. 3 days later, she showed up at the apartment I'd rented downtown. No warning, no knock, just the sound of her sobbing outside the door. I opened it and stood still. She looked not like herself, or maybe for the first time, she looked exactly like herself, without the performance. "I lost everything," she whispered. "My job, my car, my friends won't answer my calls." I said nothing. "I deserve it," she said, voice cracking. "But please don't tell my parents." That stopped me. "Your parents?" I asked. "They think everything's fine," she said. "My dad's business relies on reputation. If he finds out, he'll cut me off." I nodded slowly. "You mean the same dad who said I wasn't good enough to sit at his dinner table because I didn't wear a tie to Thanksgiving?" Her eyes dropped. I added, "I sent him the gala footage last night." She staggered back like she'd been hit. "You can't," she whispered. "Daniel, please." But I already had, because the truth wasn't just about what she said to her firm, it was about what she believed. Deep down, that people like me didn't belong next to people like her, that love was conditional, that honesty was optional. And now she was learning what it felt like when the truth became unavoidable. By Friday morning, Catherine's name was unofficially blacklisted in her industry. Her LinkedIn still had her old job title, but the word had spread. The video from the gala was circulating internally, shared between assistants, managers, interns. It wasn't viral in the internet sense, but it had gone viral in the only world that mattered to her, the legal community. The firm issued a one-sentence statement: "Catherine Cooper is no longer employed at Langston and Fry." That was it. No thank you, no farewell post, just silence. She called again. I let it ring. Then came the emails. Dozens of them, all variations of, "Let's talk. I made a mistake. Don't do this to me." But the truth was, she had already done it to herself. She'd spent years curating an identity that wasn't real, using me as a blank space she could rewrite when it suited her. Now there was nothing left to rewrite. The ink was dry, and everyone had read it. I didn't have to ruin her life. I just stopped protecting the lie. That night, she showed up at my new place again. This time she didn't knock. She waited in the hallway, sitting on the floor. I opened the door because I wanted to see how far she'd fallen. Not out of cruelty, but out of curiosity. She stood slowly. "They froze my accounts," she said. "My parents won't return my calls." "You told them everything, didn't you?" "I didn't say anything they couldn't see for themselves," I replied. "They think I'm a liar." "You are." She paused. "It wasn't about you. It was about the image. I needed to be someone they respected." "You needed to erase me to do that?" She didn't answer. I leaned against the doorframe. "You lost your job, your money, your connections, and now your family. And the only reason you're here is because there's nowhere else to go." "That's not true," she said. But even she didn't believe it. "Then why are you standing here? Because I won't be your rehab center. I'm not a stepping stone. You burned every bridge. I just moved out of the way." Her voice cracked. "You were supposed to love me." "I did," I said. "But you didn't." That silence right then was the most honest moment we'd ever had. She walked away. This time I didn't stop her. By Monday, her professional email bounced back. Her firm had scrubbed all traces of her from the website. Her social accounts went quiet. The only update was her LinkedIn headline, changed to "Open to Work." No details, no bio, just a blank slate, desperately hoping someone would forget the last chapter. People didn't forget. I'd heard from mutual contacts that her former friends weren't returning her texts. One even blocked her after she tried to frame the whole thing as a misunderstanding blown out of proportion. But people who deal in contracts and credibility don't take kindly to liars, especially ones who lie to make themselves look better. Then something unexpected happened. Daniel Fields, one of her coworkers, called me. I hadn't spoken to him in almost a year. I didn't know, he said. She told me you were divorced, that you'd walked away. She made it seem like you'd left her. She wanted sympathy, I said. She asked if she could stay with me, he admitted. Said she had no one else. I told her no. I'm not getting caught in whatever mess she created. I didn't judge him. I didn't even feel vindicated. I just felt done. When we hung up, I sat there quietly for a few minutes. Then I opened my laptop, logged into our shared storage drive, and deleted every photo we'd ever taken together. I removed her from every document, account, and contact list. There were no tears, no dramatic final clicks, just cleanup. By the end of that week, I was legally and emotionally untangled from her life. She, on the other hand, had nothing left but reminders. 6 months later, I stood on the rooftop of an office building overlooking downtown Milwaukee, not as a sanitation tech, not as a heartbroken husband, but as a co-founder of a sustainability startup that had just secured a city contract to modernize waste management in 4 districts. We weren't just hauling trash, we were building a smarter system, cleaner streets, lower emissions, better jobs, the kind of work that actually mattered. The company started small, just an idea I scribbled during night shifts. But after everything with Catherine fell apart, I put all my focus into making it real. I used the investments I'd quietly nurtured for years to fund the launch. Partnered with a local engineer I met through volunteer cleanup efforts, Maya. She had vision, grit, and most importantly, integrity. We worked nonstop for months, late nights, early mornings, constant pitches. But when the city approved our contract, it wasn't luck, it was earned. I'd spent years in the background of my own life, apologizing for being practical, for not having a flashy degree, for getting my hands dirty. Now I was front and center, and I didn't have to lie to belong there. That night on the rooftop, Maya handed me a glass of wine. You ever think about where you were a year ago, she asked. All the time, I said. You regret it? No, I answered. I needed it to happen. Even the part with her. I didn't flinch, especially that part. She nodded, understanding without prying. That's what respect looks like. It doesn't demand you relive your pain for someone else's curiosity. Back when I was with Catherine, success was something we wore in public but never felt in private. It was performative, conditional, image first. Now it was real. My daughter came by the next day. She's 15, from my first marriage, something Catherine never made easy. But now she visits every other weekend, stays longer than she used to, and asks questions about the business. She wants to study environmental science. You're cool now, she said during one of our walks. I wasn't before? You were, she said. But now I can tell. I didn't need public approval, but that moment, that validation from someone who mattered, stuck with me longer than applause at a gala ever could. As for Catherine, she works part-time at a call center on the edge of town. I know because one of our clients mentioned her when I stopped by for a meeting, said she sounded different on the phone. Tired, maybe. Her parents cut her off after the video surfaced, not just because of the lie, but because she dragged the family name into the fallout. Her father's firm lost 2 accounts within a week of the scandal. Her former co-workers blocked her. The professional circles she used to orbit in closed ranks the minute she was no longer useful. She sent a few more emails over the months, apologies, explanations, emotional appeals. I never responded, not out of cruelty, but because I was done explaining myself to someone who had never really listened. She wanted closure, but closure isn't something I owed her. Some endings don't need conversations. They need distance. I didn't expose her for revenge. I didn't take anything that wasn't already mine. All I did was step out of the shadows she built and show people what was actually there. And that truth, stark, raw, undeniable, did all the work. Now I live on my own terms, surrounded by people who value the same. My name is still the same. My past is still mine. But I'm no longer someone's secret or someone's shame. I'm just Daniel Cooper, and that's more than enough.